Welcome back to the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This episode is once again brought to you by our friends over at Galactic Comics and Collectibles at galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com. This is Paul Eaton of Galactic Comics and Collectibles discussing the 40th anniversary of the Back to the Future feature film that came out in 1985, July 3rd, 1985. So we discussed the movie, a little bit about the sequels, the idea of a remake and all that stuff and so much more right here on the Capes and Tights podcast. But before you listen, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, all those places. You can rate, review, subscribe over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you find your podcasts out there right now. You can also find us over on YouTube. And as always, you can visit capesandtights.com for so much more information, lists, reviews, all that stuff over there. But this is Paul Eaton of Galactic Comics and Collectibles and myself discussing Back to the Future for the 40th anniversary of the feature film. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, Paul Eaton, Galactic Comics and Collectibles. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm great. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing wonderful. This new spot, man. This is it doesn't look that much different. I feel like some people might not recognize this that much, but there's no brick wall thing anime. It's a little bit different.
You got a little more light in there. You got that
a little bit more light. I got a little bit more light. I got a window here. I have to cover that up with something. There's a window over here I have to cover up. Yeah, it's a kind of a mess in the bookshelf right now, but it's not a garage anymore. How about that?
No, yeah, that's an improvement in and of itself. You're no longer hiding in a garage.
Worth the buying a house, huh? No.
Yeah, you actually bought a podcast studio, just happened to have a house attached.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of funny. It was like when people were helping me move and stuff like that, and they're like, wow, this room's already set up. I'm like, it wasn't because I really wanted to get it set up. There's multiple facets to it. One was the books are easy to move because I can then put them on the shelf and then use the boxes again. So that was a nice little added bonus. The second thing was that I didn't want to skip that many weeks of recording. And so, like, I wanted to get in here and get at least this corner set up so that I could actually start work. I had the internet installed a couple of weeks ago, and so I could actually get in here and start recording. So I recorded last Monday, and as you know, I moved last Saturday. And so I was like, I needed to be done. And plus, I wanted to be able to focus on my family's part of the house, not this part, once we actually moved in.
An easy part of setting up a room like yours is that no one else in your family cares.
No.
What it looks like, what it is. So then you can we need to move the couch. We needed the TV. I don't like it over here as much. Or, the kids' rooms, they want to different. You can go set that up and no one cares what it looks like and what you're doing.
And so to me, I'm like, if I came in here and started setting this up for podcasting, my wife would be like, where are you? Can you please help with the rest of the house? And so I came here and did things in spots and moments and things like that, took a day off and came in here and started setting this up. So so we're in the new studio. This is where we'll be for a while, hopefully, Paul, because I am stuck for 30 years in this mortgage. So,
as one of the people who help you move, I don't really want to have to move you again.
No, exactly. We're gonna cut that box or that mattress in half if we have to get it out of here. We're gonna just slice it right in half, but no. But yeah, we're here to discuss our movie review or discussion or whatever. It's the 40th anniversary, Paul, of Back to the Future. 40 years.
So I realized while watching it that he doesn't go as far into the future as we are or in the past. I was like, he travels less time than we are sitting in
currently sitting. Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of hurt a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. It's a crazy time. And then in the second movie where they're like, oh, there's always that talk about it was a couple of years ago now where the date he went into. And so you're like, oh,
we're the flying
cars, automatic exchange, drying clothing, rehydrating meals, all that stuff. Like there's some stuff.
The shoes you just step into.
Yes. There's some stuff that's actually more technologically advanced than they predicted.
Yeah.
And there's definitely things that...
We had the virtual calls there, and actually, it's funny how a lot of that does seem accurate from the second movie there, where, when he gets fired and it's, coming off on the fax machines, it's going everywhere, and I'm like, that actually seems a lot like today.
Well, I think it's funny, too, that in the future, in the second movie, they added fax machines. They thought that was going to stay on forever.
That was still going to stay, yeah. I just had one of my distributors I was working with had a whole thing, and they're like, "Oh, can you just fax us that information?" I'm like, "Who the hell still faxes stuff?" I'm like, "I don't even have a fax machine, right?"
That's it. Doctors, they only do it. This fax machine only for doctors' offices. And I don't understand. I had to send thinking for an accident. This is 5-6 years ago, more than that now, 9 years ago. I was in a car accident. I needed to fax something, and I needed to go visit my dad's friend's church.
To find a fax
machine. To send something to the fax machine to the insurance company because they're like, "Oh, we need to fax." I'm like, "Can I send it in an email?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "That's how the world works right now."
when I worked in automotive, the automotive field's always like a little bit backwards.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of faxing, like when we had to do stuff for our like not payroll, but like bills and collections from our customers and stuff. A lot of that was faxing. And
Hmm.
it just seems like so ridiculous that you're sitting there and you never know, like half the time you don't really know if it goes through or not.
Yeah.
You assume it does. Anyone actually get it on the other end? Like, is their fax machine down? So you can start looking like 3 months later and you're like, I know I did this. And I had to keep a big file of stuff I'd faxed so I could go back through and be like, I proved I did it. I had to like stamp it that I sent it that
Yes.
day. What a
Uh,
nuisance.
that's also funny about it. I mean, maybe they just gave up on it because the fact that people don't do it that often anymore. But I feel like the technology in the imagery hasn't improved that much. Like the fact that we
No.
could send a fax that still looks like crap when it comes through, or the
Yeah.
machine catches it in a weird way. Like they never once they said no one's gonna use fax machines anymore, they're just like we're gonna stop like making it
They get,
better.
right. Well, yeah, we're not going to keep improving this. Yeah.
No,
The
this is
fact is
it.
like halfway through and then it stops and
Yeah.
you only have half a page of it. It's always something. Yeah. It's
Well, I
funny
also
that
love it.
that's what
I
they thought
worked
was going to stick.
I worked in an office that had a fax machine. This is now 15 years ago, and we'd get fax spams.
Oh,
You see
God.
the
Yep.
fax machine, and I always thought to myself, like, okay, a spam email is like whatever. It doesn't really, you delete it. It doesn't.
That should be the person sending us spam faxes.
Well, that and also like it costs paper and toner. So,
Yeah.
like you sending me a fax, and every day if like 3 or 4 faxes came through, and then over the span of a year, that's an entire ream of paper.
Where where does that worth
You know what I mean?
anything?
Like that, yeah. That to me, I'm like that's stealing from us in a sense. Like
Yes.
that's whatever. Uh, two old men here griping about fax
I was gonna
machines
say,
here. That's
in the
great.
wrong movie. The movie that we're not even
But
supposed to.
yeah, so 40 years, Paul. So obviously it's in
Yeah.
between you and I, right? I'm 39, you're over 40, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
1985, it was July 3rd, 1985. So it's a July 4th weekend, release of this
Yep.
movie. It was written and directed by Robert Zemeckis. It was also co-written by Bob Gale, who still own the rights to the movie to this day.
That is impressive. That's smart right there.
They own the
Like,
rights to all
because here
three
we are, 40th
movies.
anniversary. You know they're going to be marketing all of the like Back to the Future
Yeah,
hats and
yeah.
shirts and crazy Nikes and all the stuff, and he's still making all the coin
They're
off
doing
of it.
great. They
That's
didn't
smart.
just worry about it anymore. And that's the reason why
Yep.
we haven't got a fourth one or a reboot or any of that stuff is because they basically said, these are the movies. We're not touching it. And basically, it has to be their like estates after they pass would have to say,
Yep.
yes, we give you the rights. We'll say the rights to try to do this movie over again or whatever. So
I'm
that's the reason
I'm
we,
right on the fence of like I would love to see like a reboot or something. I also don't want to see a reboot. Like I can't decide which way I'd rather go with it. It's so original and fun for its time
yeah.
and place that doing it now, I almost feel like it just wouldn't hit the same way.
You'd have to make it cheesy in the way that this was cheesy but good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you have to be you couldn't be like this is what realistically it's going to look like in the
Yeah, you're
future.
not gonna have like
Yeah.
everything would be CGI'd now
And you'd have to
and
go back, actually. That's what you'd have to do. You couldn't do more future stuff. You'd have to still go. You have to go further in the past because
yeah,
Doc Brown, what's his name,
Christopher
Christopher
Lloyd,
Lloyd,
right? Yep.
has always wanted to go back to like Rome. But the problem
Right.
with that thing is the fact that it's always been go back to the future in the spot they're in. So they'd have to travel to Rome and then go back to the
And then
future,
go
or go
back to
back to
Rome.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those, or
Yeah,
go
'cause you're
back in
not gonna go
time.
back to the past and then try to get to Rome from there.
Yes. So you have to
Like
somehow
that's
be in Rome and then go back from there. But it is what it is. But yeah, I think that it has the reason why it's so amazing is because it's in that realm of like the future from here is gonna be less astounding to us, in my opinion, less
right.
surprising to us. We know eventually that there'll be mostly electric cars. We know in the
Right.
future that there'll be this, that, and the other thing because the way that technology has grown, and even in our lifetimes,
It's
is so
it's insane
fascinating.
the jump of technology that we've had
Yeah,
in our time.
there's not going to be
It
this
shows just
massive jump.
in this movie that came out when we were kids, and that half
Yeah.
of our technology is more advanced than what they thought it would be.
Mhm.
Although we
So I
don't
don't
have fun.
say I've always wanted to see like Marty McFly. If they did do it, I would want it to be before Michael J. Fox passed.
Yeah.
Is because I wanted to at least have a cameo in it of some sort, or
Right.
Doc Brown, Emmett, Christopher Lloyd's still kicking around. Like it would be awesome to have
Yep.
him in it, but have it be like Christopher Lloyd's kids or Marty's
Yeah.
kids, Doc Brown's kids, because obviously they're in the third movie, and have it be like their kids are now finding the pieces and
Putting it together.
like it crashed and they found like they find the pieces of the old DeLorean, they somehow put it back together and make it a reboot, but not a reboot like start the whole franchise over
Like the
again.
way the Ghostbusters did. That
Yes,
it's
something where it's like
yeah.
continuing the story, but years later. That's the only way I would want to do it. I also have a sick and twisted way I want to do it. That Marty McFly, that Michael J. Fox, his illness is actually caused by traveling through time.
Oh God,
Um,
that is dark. Yeah, because I mean,
like,
there's got to be side effects to this.
so don't do it. Don't do it. You'll end up like me.
God.
That's what I mean. It makes sense. It would actually be a pretty good story. It would
Right,
also be like
right,
hit a little close to home, and I don't know how well it would be received. But maybe
right,
that's the horror version of the Back to the Future. Like like when the rights get public domain, is they
right.
have
You start
someone
doing those spin-off things.
no. It was made for $19 million, Paul, in 1985. So that was not
That,
high, but it was a good amount of
that's
money.
a
It was a good
decent
chunk
amount
of
of money
money for
back then,
the
for sure. Yeah,
yeah. It made $389 million in
I
the
think you did
box
okay.
office. And it's obviously going to make more because those numbers they always continue to add the re-releases. Like it's coming out
Yeah.
in July. A lot of places are going to show it because of the
Yep.
40th anniversary. So like it's going to grow on that, which is kind of I always hate that because I'm like, how about the initial run? Like how much did it
Right.
make on
What
the
did it
initial run?
actually do back then?
hmm I wanted to look up 19 million.
Obviously, and well enough success that they made three of them.
Yeah. Yes. And I honestly think it's one
Like
of the
in
few that I
succession too.
liked all three.
Yeah, I think the third one is a little less than the first two,
Yes.
but the first two are definitely very, very enjoyable. And
It,
I
but
still
but
like watching the third one.
but not nearly as other people have seen the third movie of a lot of other trilogies. The third movie
Right.
of a lot of other trilogies just are not very good. I mean, people will speak about Team NT. The
Yeah.
third
Oh
movie people
God.
didn't like that one as much, and so on and so forth. So, like, I do think that out of the scale, the actual trilogy as a whole is probably
They're
one of
all
the best
they're all
trilogies that are out
enjoyable.
there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all enjoyable. They're
Yeah.
all fun to watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
feel I don't watch like the two and then be done.
Yeah. You watch the third one. That's the thing is you get to it, and it's a completely the first and the second movie are very similar in the sense that
Extremely,
they go
yeah.
back in
That
time to
is kind of
older.
a refreshing thing in the third one is that it is very different as far as they're in the West, but
Because you're going 30 or 40 years in the future or the past from 1985 is how crazy it is 30 years ago. So Doc Brown knows about this stuff. And then you go
right,
30 years in the future and you see this thing. And then they're like, well, just rewrite the whole thing and be like, let's get some ancestors in it and go to the third one, the
right.
third movie. And so like, because I guess they definitely couldn't have made a third one that was in the same vein as the first and second one because it would
Yeah,
have
it's
been
still
like
tied
just too much.
together.
It would have been like, well, it would have been like, unless they just stayed in 1985 the whole time.
Right. They never
with
actually time
with
travel.
stuff that they brought from the past and from the future and just made or made an alternate timeline again. So I think the old school doing it back in the old west is actually worth it in that third one.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's kind of fresh for all of it. Because yeah, I don't know if you could. I don't know if I'd want to watch a third one that was taking place in the exact same scenario as the first two movies.
because he would have just been like,
So
okay, this is repetitive. Okay, I get it. This is
yeah,
another one. Like, so
I
doing
get
that,
it.
and
You
then
guys messed something up, and you
yeah,
shouldn't have been playing with it. Yeah,
and nowadays that
even
they
though
would have
they
made
messed with
they
it,
would
go even further back.
they would have made a fourth one if it
Yeah,
was in 2025. If this is the third one came out in 2025, there would be a fourth one in 2027,
yeah.
guaranteed,
Oh yeah.
because of how well the series went.
Turn them out. Turn them out.
Yeah, pretty
Maybe
much.
up to
Just
like
keep going.
the sixth or seventh one that was like a direct
Yeah,
like streaming service because it really wasn't that good and no one cared and
because the
yeah.
third one came out in 1990 and was made for 40 million, and it made 245 million. So it still made 200 million
Oh yeah,
dollars. Like it
still
still
did
like
well.
was successful. They would easily have done
Yeah.
a second one or a third one. Part two made $40 million, made $332 million. So pretty good series, man.
Yeah. Yeah. There's solid success rate for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And then they had the TV show, the animated TV show,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
91
I
and
forgot
92. So
about
that's
that.
technically that is the fourth one technically, but it's not in a sense connected because it came out in 91.
Right. Right.
And I was created by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. And it was I don't know, say it was like 20 episodes, 25 episodes, 26 episodes, which was cute. I
That's
mean,
a pretty solid run for animated
yeah,
series back then too.
yeah. And I know voices were all different except for Clara from Back to the Future 3 voices
Mm.
her character in that. And I know Christopher Lloyd did the live action segments. And then someone else did the voiceover segments of the actual animated stuff.
Right.
But like it was like there was like it wasn't connected in that way. It wasn't like nowadays when they do animated shows like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe where they're
Oh,
like
you have the
using the
same
cast. Yeah,
character. Yeah, the
yeah.
same actors for the whole thing.
But yeah, so it's a highly rated movie too. I mean, not only just as a good movie, I think it's 93, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got the 8.5 on IMDb, so it's like one of the top
That's pretty solid
100
to keep
rated
up.
movies. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, and it's got a cast. Like,
There's always somebody that give a bad review for these things and
yes,
just like
it's
I
not
don't like
realistic.
DeLoreans, 1 star.
This
It's
wouldn't have
unrealistic.
happened. Time
Yeah.
travel goes this way, and this is how time travel works. Time travel is impossible, people, right now. So like, just think of it that way.
Yeah,
This is
just
fake.
calm down, folks. Just calm down. Just
And
enjoy
then
the ride.
and at the time, Michael J. Fox was huge in like was it
Oh
Family
my God.
Matters, Family
Yeah.
Ties,
Family ties.
yeah, Family Ties, and so he
Family
was
ties.
very popular in that stuff. So
Oh
Christopher
yeah.
Lloyd, obviously, has been famous since then. I don't know how much more he was
Roger
doing then.
Rabbit.
Yeah,
And
yep.
yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
Leah Thompson, obviously, we've
Yep.
watched. This is the second. This is the second movie we've reviewed with Leah Thompson in it. Did you realize that?
You know what would be
All
interesting?
right, she's not
How
trying to sleep
many
with the
other
animals in this movie.
Nope. No, she tries to sleep with her son instead.
Yeah,
Um how many
it's those old movies where like siblings kiss or mom and son
right.
kiss, like Star Wars and this.
It'd be interesting, like, is she our only actress that we've had of duplicates?
I
Like
would think, yeah, because I mean we did the
there's
Star
gotta be
Wars
something
movies, but
else,
so there's
right?
those ones,
Yeah,
but
but
like
those don't those don't really count because they're all
but
a
yeah,
continuation.
Leah
Yeah.
Thompson and yeah, and she is. I love the scene in the movie where he's like, "You're so hot." You're so hot, and he wants to he wants to say hot. And it's like, yeah, it does. Michael, yeah, don't Marty, don't say it because that's gross. But yes, your mom is
Yeah.
hot. Like I'll tell you
Yeah.
that right now.
I I love it. After watching this with my girls and Liz and I watching it now, we keep
Yeah,
talking about how funny it is and how funny like her mom is. Her mom's always was always when we were younger, like the same idea of like don't chase boys and
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't do these things and this and that. And then there's the mom like I didn't chase boys, I didn't sit with boys, and it goes back to the past and she's like chasing every guy and
Well, just think about it. This is the funny thing. It's like this is the epitome of
chasing Marty.
parenting, right? It's the
Yeah,
epitome of parenting. You're telling your
yeah.
kids not to do the things that you
The
did,
things that you
and
already did.
you do fib a little bit and say, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that when I was younger." Like it's not
Right.
until they're older and they're graduating high school or whatever, going into college, where you're like, "Yeah, I smoked cigarettes when I was 10," or
I did
something
all
along those lines. You're not going to say that when your kid's 10. You're not going to
right.
tell them that because they're like, "Well, I'm going to try it." So it's like so funny how yes, it's like the epitome when you're looking at it as a parent. You're like, "That is exactly how my parents were."
Yep.
They lied through their teeth about
I
how they
didn't do
were as a
anything
kid.
things. Yeah.
And it's true. And then talk about that, and then the age, the gap, and not just the going back in time. And so you see the 1950s, but you also see the 1985 time where things are not like they are in 2025.
Oh my
Like
God, that was so much
Marty
fun.
McFly at the very beginning, and I wrote a little note down about him like being like, "I'll call you later," and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be at my grandmother's," and she runs up and gives him her phone number. I'm like, "Wait a
Yeah,
second,
writes it down.
isn't that just like I'll call you later I'll text you later on your phone? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter where you
Nope.
are.
Nope.
I
Nope.
got to
Not
use my
back
phone
then.
number." It also
Yeah.
surprised me that they've been dating that long and he doesn't have her phone number.
Well, yeah. Well, it was the grandmother's number, right?
Well, still, she's never been to her
No,
grandmother's house.
yeah, never been to grandmother's house.
Like it
Which
sounds like
is
she goes there often. So
right. I thought it's funny, like looking for these parents that are, I don't know. I guess they didn't pay a whole lot of attention because Marty's all over the place all the time.
mhm.
Like at 1 a.m. he's out at a parking lot at the mall. Like, wait, how are they not keeping track of where this kid is and what he's doing?
And an old man is asking him
He's
to
always
come to
hanging out
this
with this
parking
old
lot.
dude.
So
His like best friend is this old dude that's always over at his house messing around.
Mr.
I guess it
Strickland
was the
is
80s.
it's somewhat right, Mr. Strickland. Like, don't hang out with Emmett Brown. He's a crazy old man. Like, it's true.
Right.
Like, people have seen this, but like,
Right.
yes, go out 1 o'clock in the morning, no question, no repercussion.
Yeah.
I mean, his parents are kind of space cases too. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, it looks like, like mom drinks a lot and dad's just a flake or whatever.
It's also the epitome of 1985 and before of the people not paying attention, like the way that they acted to each other.
Yeah.
Like the family was together because they needed to be together in 1985. So his mom is drinking a lot, and the dad is
Yep.
not even paying attention. He's just watching TV, and she's talking to him, and he's just like, "I don't give a shit about you." And he's
Yeah.
but they have to stay together because that's how it is. It's their nucleus.
Right.
They got to do it
Very
for the
like,
kids
you
and
got the
stuff.
kids.
Yeah,
You don't have
yeah,
a choice.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then back,
Well,
back in the 1950, the way that people acted in 1950, 50 something too, it's pretty crazy there too. But yeah, I thought, the time just watching this is going back in the past for me.
Right.
Watching this being
Big
like this
time.
is exactly. And that's why it would be kind of funny to see a remake based in 2026, 2027 that they go back to 1987 because there are some things that nowadays would be funny to see.
Yeah.
Like the same
That would
do the
actually be a
same
lot
thing
of
that this
fun.
movie does, but just shift it until it's modern day in
Yeah,
1985.
that'd actually be a lot of fun if they left today to travel back
Yes.
to try to catch Marty and stop him from messing with the timeline or
And you
something.
could do it even more
And that
serious
could
because
go back to the 80s.
you could be like more serious, like the world's gonna end or something like that. Not just your
Right.
entire, not that your because this whole movie is about how their sphere.
Affecting themselves. Yeah.
Yes, they don't talk about the greater picture. So it would be
I
funny
mean,
if they did
you
one as a
get,
greater
yeah, in
picture
this
that they.
movie, yeah. Yeah. The second one, you get a little bit because
Yes,
of, um, oh my God, the bad guy.
Biff,
Biff. Yeah, because Biff was
but still
messing
Biff
around with
in
stuff,
there.
but
It's still in their
it
area.
still only really
It's not
affects.
like some sort of like crazy post-apocalyptic world where there's like, what I mean? Like it's in that area. There
Yeah.
is that kind of feeling, but like it doesn't talk about like going to New York City and have it be like not zombies, but you know what I
Because
mean?
it's
Like
leveled, yeah, or the
yeah,
zombie,
exactly. Nuclear
whatever.
war happened or something like that that you didn't
Right.
actually get into, um, but yeah, that's just it made me laugh is like the way that they acted, the way they write the phone numbers down and all that stuff. It's like there in 1985, it was talking about how crazy it was 30 years ago, and to me,
Talk about
watching it 40 years later, being like how crazy it was in 1985, let
Talk about
alone
being 1985 and how crazy it is. I think this was like PG. It was like
well,
PG, and I'm watching it with the girls, and like Marty's swearing every time he turned around. I was like, wow, it's crazy that nowadays there's no way that's getting a PG
Well, it was
rating.
because there was like two ratings. It was like R and then parental guidance. It was just like, hey, by the way, your kid might not like to watch this, or you might not want your kid
Right.
to watch this, but it's not like. And then there's R, which is like you cannot watch this. But it was like PG. It was like Footloose is the same way. There's a lot of swearing in
Right.
Footloose, and it's like, wait a second, there's no way that this would have been like this in
Yeah,
2025.
nowadays, no way. That
They're
would
very, they're
not
allowed to
even
say like
funny.
two swears or like one swear on TV, and then it
Yeah,
goes
you got to
away. Yeah.
use it properly. It's only getting one. Yeah.
And so we've talked about Marty McFly. We've talked and Michael J. Fox. We've obviously talked about Lea Thompson and how she's been in multiple movies we've reviewed and stuff like that. She's awesome. I love Lea Thompson. Christopher Lloyd, Crispin Glover is George McFly. It's Marty's dad on this
Yeah.
thing. If you look at and then Biff Tannen, all these characters are extremely well cast in my opinion. Like there's not a
I
single
agree.
person where I was like, eh. Like Biff being the way Biff was phenomenal. George
Oh, you
McFly, I
can't
just
stand him. The
loved.
younger version of Biff
Yes.
is awful.
Oh,
The older version, when he's first there and is like still, well, when you first meet him and he's bossing around Marty and
yep.
acting like an ass, or not Marty, but George,
Yeah.
and then he goes back in the past and you see that it all started way back then.
Mhm.
You talk about
But
like feeling sympathetic for George, that he's just like this
well, we're
guy that like
nerds.
he's just this nerd and he can't get off his ass to do anything right.
Well,
Like,
we're nerds, right? And so we have a lot easier time than George McFly did in the 1950s.
oh God, yeah,
Let's be honest, because George McFly wanted to read space novels. EC Comics. Did you see that when he crashed into the bath and they
yes,
had the thing as EC Comics? And I love how like EC Comics is like back big right now.
yep,
And seeing that
that was
a
cool.
sci-fi comic holding on to is yeah, he wants to read like Jules Verne or whatever. He wants to read these like
Yeah,
nerdy novels and read
and
EC
write a
Comics in his
sci-fi
60s.
book, but he doesn't dare have anybody read it.
And so you feel for him in that sense because nowadays, like if your buddy was like, "I'm writing a sci-fi book," you're like, "Dope! I want to read it. When can I
Yeah,
read it?" And
that's
that,
cool.
back then,
Yeah,
it's like you didn't want anybody to get near him because you
yeah.
weren't cool. You didn't have a poodle dress. You didn't have like that kind of thing.
Yeah, you
Well, I
weren't doing
hope
all of the in stuff because sci-fi
no
was
leather
definitely
jackets and like going to play
very
sports and stuff like that. Yeah,
fringe. Yeah,
yeah. He was a
yeah,
fringe person.
playing sports. Like you're either a sports guy or you're not, and
Hmm. Well, I hope he
George
wasn't.
definitely was
I hope he
not.
wasn't wearing poodle skirts. That would have been weird. But
That would have been a
I mean,
whole different 1955.
maybe he did. I don't know. We didn't see that part.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, so it's it's you feel for him, but also like Lea Thompson being able to play both roles, the mom and the daughter. They said it took
Yep.
her like 3.5, 4 hours to put the makeup on to be the mom.
Oh
That
my.
that she was because she was like 23 at the time when she made this
Yeah.
movie, so it took her so long to put that on there. Obviously, Michael J. Fox, and obviously we'll touch on that right now really quickly. Is it wasn't the original? He was the original pick to
Mm.
play Marty McFly, but because of family ties and his schedule and all that stuff, they weren't able to do that, and so they went with Eric Stoltz. And Eric Stoltz filmed like they said, what it ended up being 40 minutes of screen time as Marty McFly when they realized the chemistry just wasn't working, and they amicably said this isn't going to work, and he left. He was trying to make it more serious and less comedy,
Yeah.
and they said, okay, this is not going to work, and they went back to family ties and was like, we really want Michael J. Fox, so his filming schedule was like like 10 o'clock at night to like 10 o'clock in the morning on the set for Back to the Future. And then
Oh,
he'd like go home and sleep for an hour. And then he'd head over to the set for Family Ties and do like 11 o'clock to like 9 o'clock at Family Ties. And then, he would do this. He was basically
oh,
working 48 hours or 24 hours a day for
that's just
like
brutal.
months while filming this movie. It obviously got better with the future movies, but best decision that he's ever made, best decision that the people Robert Zemeckis and
Oh my
Bob
God,
Gale ever
yeah,
made. It is
100%.
there's nobody else in this world that I could picture playing Marty
No,
McFly other than
he's
Michael J.
definitely
Fox.
Marty McFly. And I feel like this is like a comedy adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael J. Fox has that perfect, like, and he's lovable,
Mm-hmm.
like, and he does such a great job of he sticks up for himself even though he's the little guy.
Yep.
And you have those scenes where he like is gonna fight Biff and then he starts looking up at Biff and he's like,
Yes.
crap.
Well, he's got that tender, I care for the world kind of personality, but he's also got that cool, he's hip. He's a young hip kid. He's like, I don't know, he just fits
Sleeping
everything.
suspenders.
Yeah. And
What's
his
that
relationship with
was my youngest watching. That was her thing. She's like, why is he sleeping in his clothes? Why does he have suspenders on? I'm like, I don't know, kid. It was the 80s. Just roll with it. It's fine.
he was cool. It was cool back then. And his acting chops against Christopher Lloyd was
Oh my
amazing,
God.
and
They're so
all that
much fun
stuff.
together.
And I just could never picture it ever happen. And that's part of the reason why I think a lot of people don't want a remake or a reboot.
Yeah,
It's
just
the
leave it alone.
whole Han Solo thing where it's like people don't want to see Han Solo played by anybody else but Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
So no one wants
100%.
to. They'd actually probably be okay with someone else playing Doc Brown. It's the Michael J. Fox of it all. They don't
Yeah.
want anybody else playing
Can't
Michael J.
replace Marty.
Fox than Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly, than other than Michael J. Fox. And I think that became his thing. It's weird how it became his thing. And actually, I mean, he was Teen Wolf too.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's right.
obviously Family Ties and stuff like that.
And then
But
what
like,
was the show he went on that he played like a politician or he worked in a do you remember that? It was on ABC and it
yes,
was like that was very long running.
yeah, I forget now.
I
I have to
can't
look it
remember
up.
the show
I'll look
though.
it up. But
Yeah.
he's actually gonna be on the next season of Shrinking.
Oh, that's cool.
And so that's Harrison Ford's on it, which is funny to say is
Then
Harrison Ford's on it.
combine them.
Yeah, so he was on Family Ties from 82 to 89, and then he was on Spin City.
Spin City.
Yeah,
That was
from 96 to
yeah. He
2002.
played like I can't remember, like an assistant to the mayor
Yeah.
in New York or
Yeah.
something or other. Yeah.
He's on Boston Legal for a number of years. He did a spot guest appearances on Scrubs for a number of years. But yeah, so he was on a couple of things, and so now he's
Yeah.
gonna be on Shrinking, which is one of my favorite shows right now.
Nice.
It has what's his face from How I Met Your Mother. I forget his name, and then Harrison Ford's on it, and
The Doogie Howser, which still isn't his name.
no, no,
No, it's not him.
no, it's not him. It's the other guy. It's the guy
Yeah.
the other guy.
That's terrible. We can't remember any of these
Whatever,
actors' names.
whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's not about this show, movie.
Yeah,
I didn't need to research it because it's not about this show.
talk about going back to the
Um,
80s.
This movie. Yeah, exactly. But it's so Michael J. Fox is like I said, the epitome. There's no one else that could have played this role, in my opinion. And it's one of those things when you go look back at certain characters, you're like, there's no one else that could have played X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, no one else could have played Elf other than Will Ferrell, in my opinion. Like that's just one of those people. Like there's only one person that ever said would ever come close, and that's what's his name from Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper's the guy who plays Sheldon Cooper.
Oh God, yeah.
And he did play him in an animated like version remake musical thing that they did. And after hearing him speak, I'm like, oh, I could have seen him as Elf. But yeah, no one else at the time in the 80s I can even picture being Marty McFly. Same to Christopher Lloyd. I think that Emmett Brown was extremely well played by him, and so on and so forth.
Very well done. He's so much like he's so just like wacky, and I love when he meets him in the past there, and he's like everything's failing. You see, he has his mansion that doesn't work out because he's spending all this money creating crap that doesn't work, and he's just out of it. I love it. Like Liz pointed out when he starts watching himself in the future, and he's like, "Oh, look at me! Look how old I am! I didn't lose my hair," and he looks the exact same. He doesn't change at all.
It's
one of those guys that never ages. He probably looked insane like that in like high school. You have all these young kids, and it's just this tall guy with the crazy hair.
Well, I love the fact that he goes back and he does this. He knocks on the door, right? Goes, "Hey, Doc, I need you." Da, da, da. And it takes him forever to actually believe Marty. Whereas, like, I feel like the easy way out for a lot of movies nowadays is like you say, "Hey, I'm from the future." No, you're not. I'm from the future. Oh, okay. Like it's just it's like you immediately start to believe him, and he took to the point where he actually started saying about the whole flux capacitor and and that's when he started going, "Oh my
god!" Knowing that how he got the bump on his head.
And
Yep.
that made I feel like that made it so much more believable that even
Yeah.
this guy who was inventing these crazy things,
All
and
this
it's some
crap.
self-doubt, it's the
Yeah,
self-doubt that he can't
definitely. I
believe.
think he sort of didn't think he was ever going to create something that actually worked.
And so like having him not believe fully and then finally believe, which was pretty
Yep.
funny. I guess Ronald Reagan said he loved being in the movie in that sense where he says, "Oh, Ronald Reagan, the actor,"
Yeah,
he
yeah,
actually appreciated that. It was actually kind of funny that he thought that was kind of funny of
that was
him.
funny too. Yeah,
Yeah,
he like laughs at him.
yeah.
Yeah, he starts
And
to
so
say like all these other actors. Oh, I guess they're the treasurer.
And I want to know. I mean, there is some ad libbing, obviously, in this movie. I guess the Biff when he says "make like a tree and get out of here," that's
Yeah.
actually ad lib. That wasn't actually in the script. He
Oh, he
actually did
nailed
that on
it.
his own,
That's
which
one
is
of my
awesome.
favorite lines. I love that.
But like the one of my favorite lines in this entire movie is when he's in they're looking at the model and he's like, "Sorry, forgive this the crudity of this model. Is not. I didn't give time to paint it or make it to scale."
Right.
It was like, what? Yeah, of course, it is like perfect. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
painted, but the
Every
whole thing
little
is like
detail of
perfect.
the buildings are there. Everything's right. Yeah, and Marty's kind of like, okay.
I'm
Yeah, and
sorry, I didn't
then the
have
car
time to
catches
paint it.
fire.
Yeah, Mario's like, but yeah, that
Hope
was
for a better
amazing.
result.
That was amazing. Oh, I wanted. This is the thing I wanted to write. I want to forget before I forget. So the movie he gets to 1 o'clock in the morning, which is crazy, right? Obviously,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
and he obviously falls asleep, which is awesome. He didn't like stay up. I would have been like,
yeah.
I don't know, a kid that young in the '80s. I mean, he probably would have. I mean, I guess he was tired, but I was like, wouldn't he have just been up
Right.
anyway? Like kids nowadays go to bed at
Probably.
2 o'clock in the morning. There was no video games to play
There was nothing else to do.
online
Yeah,
to play
right.
it.
Yeah.
Um,
It wasn't cool to pick up comic books. There was nothing else to do then. TV, what?
obviously,
By then, TV would have been like over.
I
Like
don't. I
you would have gotten the
remember.
like the
Yes, there would have been the
oh my
static
god,
screen.
played the
See you
national
tomorrow.
anthem, and then it just see you tomorrow. Yeah, man,
Do
that's some old school
you
stuff.
do you remember the first time you watched this movie or no? Like I don't. I can't. Like I
I
can't.
really I don't. I definitely watched it back then at some point, but I was this was 85,
Yeah.
so I was only like 3 when it came out. I probably watched it somewhere when I was like 7, 8 years old.
Hmm.
And yeah, I really don't remember. It's just one of those things that's sort of like always been part
It's
of
just been
my
there.
childhood
Yeah.
life, I
Yeah.
guess, right?
Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. I think it's just one of those things that like it's such a fun movie, and because I basically probably watched all three of them in a row because at that time it probably was like I didn't go to theaters to
Yeah.
see it because in
I bet it was probably
1990.
one of those things that like the third one was coming out or something,
Yeah.
and somebody was like, "We got to watch them all," and
Yeah.
then
And
yeah,
obviously back then it was a little harder. Like you owned it on VHS tape or someone had to buy it
you'd
or
have to
you
go
rent it
rent
or
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking back now, do you think that people in the theaters in 1985, July 3rd, they're going opening night, think that Doc Brown actually gets shot by the Libyans and is dead?
I mean, I think that's what I thought watching it. Yeah,
Because
I
obviously
thought that
now
was it.
watching
Like
it, we're like, oh, we
like
know he's from
Marty really was trying to save his life
yeah.
because he knew that night, like that
And
was
then
it. Doc,
so the secondary question is, I agree. I think I would have been like, oh shit, this is it. Doc Brown's
yeah, I
gone.
can't
This is
believe it.
it.
Like that
Um,
sidebar of that extra nervousness through the whole movie that he's got to try to save Doc.
which I'm glad they also didn't focus on like so strong. Like they weren't like
Right.
you had to get the timeline
His whole
set.
thing wasn't that. His whole thing was still he had to get back to his own
Yeah,
timeline
yeah.
and save himself because he started screwing up stuff.
Then they kind of like red herring you again with him not making it in time.
Yeah.
And shot. Then he doesn't get a chance to actually say something, and
Stop
yada
him.
yada
Yeah.
yada, and he gets shot again. Do you think at that point people were like, "Oh shit, I thought he was alive. Now he's actually dead again,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
didn't
You
make it."
thought for sure that when Marty got back there, he was gonna prevent it.
Because all my mind was like the number of times that Doc was like, "Do not say things about your future; it could affect the
Yeah, you
timeline." Da,
can't
da,
tell me
da.
things. Yeah.
And
You
that's when
can't
he
know
has that
things.
piece of paper that he actually reads and says, "Oh, I did. I read it, and now he's wearing the
Yeah.
bulletproof vest thing."
The bulletproof vest somehow stops an AK-47. We won't
Yeah,
get
I
into
did. It's all good, but yeah, I mean,
that.
somehow the Libyans found him at the mall. Like that's also a thing. Like it's like
At 1 a.m. Yeah.
somehow he knows Libyans. Like that's also another
Right.
thing we don't
And
talk
they
about.
also have a rocket launcher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all great.
So yeah, it's all fine.
But
It's all fine.
I,
We don't question these things. It was the 80s.
it's
You
a
can keep
movie
those
about
anywhere.
time travel.
The
But
most
yeah,
unbelievable thing in this is the fact that a DeLorean could actually get to 88 miles an hour
yes.
and
Well,
also
they
not just fall apart in the process.
they also wrote a letter to Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, the guy who created DeLorean, saying thank you so much for making the DeLorean cool.
We're gonna.
because so many people wanted DeLoreans after this
Oh,
movie
after
that
that,
they
I
made so
imagine.
much money on it
Yeah,
because of it, and
well,
they picked the DeLorean because of the spaciness of it. Like the idea is boxy and has this like cool look to
yeah,
it. Plus, it had the doors that went up,
they're funky.
when it
You
crashed
gotta
in the
figure
past, they
anybody who built a DeLorean,
yeah.
rebuilds a DeLorean now is definitely building it because of this movie.
Oh yeah, they actually sold body kits for it that you could
Yeah.
buy. They like snap on and stuff like that to make it look like you're the DeLorean. And so they solely picked the DeLorean based on the look because when it crashed in the barn in the past, they wanted to make it look like a spaceship. And so
Yep.
that's
So
like
that door.
if it was like Charger, they would have been like whatever, it looks like a car. But like
Yeah.
this looks like a spaceship with the doors opening and all that stuff. So they needed that kind of thing. And it did, no one would have given two shits about a DeLorean nowadays if it wasn't for
No.
this movie. I'll tell you that right
No,
now.
guaranteed.
It was not around long enough and so on and so forth.
Oh, AMC went out of
yep,
business
yep,
like not very long after. That
yep.
was their whole thing, was creating. This was their sports car
Yep.
that
It
also
weighed
I think was
7
supposed to be
million pounds.
semi-affordable or something. It was supposed
Yeah.
to be semi-affordable. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
weighed so much. It weighed
Oh my
so
God, yeah.
much. Yeah. But yeah, so that was a
I
really
think it
cool
weighed
thing.
it weighed a ton. I think it only had a 4-cylinder motor. Like it didn't,
88
it was
miles an
not
hour.
made to go fast.
I love that's the speed too. That's still a crazy famous line, right? When this
Oh
baby
God.
hits 88 miles an hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
that
that
line's
and
also but
that when they rolls it out, and he was like, "You made a time machine out of a door," and he's like, "If you're gonna do it in style."
style. That there's those lines, and then they honestly my ultimate favorite line from the entire movie. I know I already said the other one was pretty favorite, but this is my ultimate favorite line. He's in the car in 1955,
Yeah.
and he's sitting there and he's getting ready and he's like checking over things. He's like time circuits on. He goes flux capacitor fluxing, and I was
He doesn't know
like,
what the hell it does.
he's like, flux capacitor fluxing. I'm like, that is a crazy, amazing line. Like I
Yep.
always like that flux capacitor is fluxing. Yes, that's right. You're right. The heater's heating, the flux
Yep.
capacitor is fluxing. But that was great. Yeah. So when he did that and went back in time or back to the future, and that they actually
That
wanted to change the name. Did you know
really?
that? They
No.
didn't want to have it called something with the word future in it because someone at Universal or whatever said that no one wants to go see a movie with the word future in it. And I don't know why. But so they wanted to call it like Space Boy from Pluto or something like that because that's
Oh
the whole like
God.
with George
They take
McFly
you
and
to
him
the
having to
end.
go visit him and
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah.
I was like, this movie would have never made it.
No,
No, we would have never made it.
no, they nailed it. Back to the Future Furry, and they say the line right off the
No.
thing there. The oh, he said it. He said the movie line. Yeah, when he
Well,
says we're gonna go back to the future.
it also is one of the most confusing lines because like how do you
Right,
go back to the future?
to the future. Yeah. Well, I
So
almost think that's
it
one of the
makes
things that
sense now. Yeah.
would have made you originally say, "I've got to see what the hell this movie is." Like, what
Yes.
is
Yes.
on this? I'm going back to the future. Like,
Mm.
it sets you right up, and this movie is like it definitely holds up for enjoyment and adventure and just I don't know. I mean, it's got
It's
all the
got
nostalgia
comedy,
vibes, but it's
adventure,
funny. It's
heart.
enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah,
It's got heart in it. It's got comedy.
you really like the connection between Doc and Marty.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
at the end of the day, Doc is Marty's best friend.
Yep.
Like his weird as this like teenage boy and
And his dad is not really
crazy
like a
old
huge
doctor.
father figure to him. Like his dad just
No,
seems like he's
yeah,
just
Doc
coasting
is
through.
definitely
Doc is
more.
his father, like looking
Yeah,
out for him.
yep,
Seems like he's one of the cool guys, like that guy, the neighbor that you'd like to hang out with, even though he's
yeah.
not a neighbor. I would have loved to actually see a prequel to this to see how they got together, like how they
Right.
met.
How did he first start hanging around Doc in the first? I felt like it might have been something like after school job, like he had a flyer out, make some money. He needs a lab assistant, you know, and that was how Marty came across Doc in the first place. Is like, I need to make some money, take Jennifer out, and start saving
But
for this
I
truck,
also
all this
appreciate
stuff. All the teenage things that is going through this kid's head for sure. Like, I gotta buy this truck. Like, it's showing that
which is a dope
going to
ass
the lake.
truck, dude.
Oh, that's sick.
That
Yeah.
Toyota
Oh yeah.
pickup truck is so awesome. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it just seems so kind of funny because, and I'm so glad it's kind of like The Walking Dead where they never explain how the zombie apocalypse happens, which is makes you perfectly fine with that. I kind of
Yeah.
like the idea that they just never touch on the fact that how this relationship between Doc
Yeah.
and Marty got together. Like it's one of those things that's like they're together to make the movies. That
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Just roll with it.
If you figure out why they are now friends, you're focused on that and not the focus on the point of the movie, which is keeping the sacred timeline, basically.
Yeah.
To steal a line from some TVA from Marvel Cinematic Universe. But yeah, having this timeline that needs to be put together, making sure their lives are not screwed up. And speaking of MCU, do you think this is the first movie with a post-credit scene in a sense? Like that's not post-credits; it's at the end of the movie. But it's like one of
Right.
those things that it actually is like a scene that they open the next movie up with.
Yeah. Boy, probably.
I mean,
Because
it's one
like
of the,
also like how many I mean, I guess back then in the 80s it started becoming more common, and in the 70s with like Jaws having all these and stuff like that.
yeah,
But like earlier than that, how many movies even had an idea that there was going to be more sequels of a
yes,
movie?
and like they would have
Most
had
things
to
were written
know.
back then that you had one movie and that was your one and done, you know.
Oh, so here's the deal. So I just like looked it up really quickly. A sequel was not initially planned, and a teaser ending with Doc, Marty, and Jennifer flying off in the DeLorean suggested their adventures would continue off screen. So it wasn't even created.
Oh, so
I
there was
always
no
assumed that it
intention
was
of
just
coming back.
created that after they finished the film,
Yeah.
like we're gonna make a second one. So let's put this teaser, this stinger
Yeah,
at
I
the end
figured they're
there.
right in like the right into writing that second one, or maybe even had like a whole two
Yeah,
movies written and said, well, we got to cut this in half.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
crazy.
So yeah, so they said that Universal came to them afterwards, saying after the significant financial and critical success of Back to the Future, however, Zemeckis and Gale were reluctant to participate, believing sequels would often retread on the basic elements of the original film.
Well, thank God they kept going.
Oh my god, because number two is phenomenal. Like to me, it's like one of those things that's like like the Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame.
You
How
got to
like
watch them both.
originally back in the day they were like when they first announced it, it was like Infinity War Part One and Part Two. It was like basically like they were gonna
Yeah,
make two movies that were the same thing, and they ended up changing the titles obviously, but they're connected in a way that's like it's basically one movie, which is hugely
yeah,
long. And this is that way too. I think I feel like it's one and two are like the same movie. It's just they couldn't make a
yeah,
3 hour movie. They had to make a 1.5 hour movies to make more
yeah.
sense.
You almost really do have to watch them together.
Yes, it's
We
they're
were gonna move. We were gonna move right into the second one. And actually, my youngest Katie was really excited to watch the next movie,
do
and we
it.
just haven't had time. Everything's so
It's so
busy.
good. And it's one of those
But
ones I've thrown on for Nova. I've thrown on to try to get him at 4 years old into Back to the Future. I've thrown
yeah,
on the animated show,
yeah.
seeing if he'd be excited about that. He's actually way more into watching real life stuff anyway. So like if you watch the animated show, he's actually gonna pick out the like I put on animated Transformers and this is gonna piss you off, but he wants to watch the real one. And that's because I think it's just because he sees it himself
God,
in it. It's us.
gross.
It's us as
No, but what the
it's
hell,
it's
man?
it's 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 the Miles Morales, being Spanish speaking and seeing the Spanish speaking
Right. You
fans of it, seeing
recognize
themselves on
yourself in
screen.
it.
It's the
Yeah.
same thing. He sees himself as part of the Transformers. He can't see himself in an animated version of it, and so I
Right.
think that's part of it. So like this, it's like I put it on before, but I think he's like So one of these days we'll actually sit down and watch it when he actually can like pay attention to
Focus
it. But
and do
yeah,
the whole thing.
he's
Yeah,
yeah
yeah.
exactly. But I mean it's there aren't anything outside of like the plot holes that would happen in any movie that's future time
Right.
travel related that make no sense like and the grossness of the fact that, I mean you had to do it of this mom and the son kissing, like there's no way not to, because in the same sense yes she would be attracted to him, and then the best part where they kiss and then like that's like kissing my brother.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to you. Yes it does. You don't
Yes, it
understand
does.
why, but it does make sense. um but yeah, I mean, you'd see that. I think that makes any sense. Like, his mom is an attractive person, so like
Yeah.
he would be attracted in a sense, and she would be attracted to him. So you had to kind of do it, but it was also kind of weird. Let's be
Yep.
honest.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it's
Keep
it's
calling him
different in
Calvin
that than it is
Klein.
in Star Wars because Luke and Leia don't know their siblings in Star
Right. Yeah,
Wars.
it's worse. It's worse. Marty knows that's his mom.
He doesn't
Yeah.
stop it immediately. He doesn't immediately move back. He like kind of
Right.
lets it happen. Then he's like, "Wait a second, this is weird."
But
But at least the
yeah.
only kiss. At least the only kiss. There's that.
Oh
Like that's
God.
like
Oh God.
maybe that's the fourth one. We don't
Oh
know it, but
God.
they have a kid, illegitimate time travel baby.
Ew. Oh,
That's Doc
gross.
Brown.
That's why they're buddies.
Well, I mean, Doc screws it all up because he has kids with what's her face in the third one.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, he's back in the what 1800s.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
crazy.
talk about screwing up your timeline, Doc.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a it's
messing with
a it's
stuff you're not
a
supposed to be.
yeah, it's insane. It's a but yeah, it's one of those things that like other than plot holes of
Yeah,
time
and I mean,
any time travel movie, I felt like the
oh
story
yeah,
made
my
sense.
uncle and I always talked about this when I was a kid, and I used to write a lot of stories and stuff. And I was writing a time travel story, and my uncle's like, never mess with time travel. Like, there's
Yep.
always problems. You're always creating issues. Like, he's like, just stay away from time travel.
Yeah,
But
you
I think
cannot write a movie that makes sense. It doesn't. There's no.
But I think this movie does a pretty good job of wrapping up enough of it that you don't have too many issues with it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
one of those things you have to suspend belief.
Things, yeah.
You have to suspend belief in a movie like this. You can't, like, it's supposed to be based in real life, but like in a sense, like it's supposed to be based like, oh, this is what would happen if this happened. But in the same sense, it can't happen. It's the same. Honestly, I'll tell you right now, it's like when watching a Walking Dead or zombie show.
Yeah,
you're trying to make it as what would happen if this happened, but there's no possible way for it to happen. So like it can't do that. So like there's obviously plot holes in that sense because you can't make it real. It's not possible. So it's not like and at that point, small plot holes are just looked over because of the fact that like they're not going to try to fix everything.
You're having fun anyways watching the movie, so let it be.
It's entertainment. It's what it is. And so I thought the casting was like spot on. The acting was wonderful. Any acting that was bad acting was almost a purposely bad acting. It was like it was part of the whole story. It was part of the whole joke. The things that they focused on in the past and in the present day were like not too much, but not too little. Like they didn't like go too much onto the fact that like, oh, we're in the past. The things that made sense, when he started saying things.
He meets the mayor when he's young and says, "Oh, you're going to be the mayor." He doesn't understand like different things. Opening a bottle of Pepsi.
Yeah.
Yes. He had no idea how to open it.
I want a Pepsi free.
All those different things. Yeah. Yeah, Pepsi free. Yeah, you got to pay for it.
Just give me something without sugar in it. And he just gives him coffee.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of funny jokes. You're like, that is kind of funny. I understand that. When he says, this is an oldie but a goodie. Well, I guess where I come from, it's oldie. Your kids are going to love it kind of thing. Like those kind of jokes were great. And there was just enough of them to realize, okay, we're in the past. This is funny.
You're seeing the difference, but it's not just over and over again.
Yes, exactly.
All the writing in this, I feel like, was very well done and timed. The jokes are always well placed. Like keep your adventure going, but also the lightheartedness.
Yes. Yep. And the science is just enough to figure it out with the whole clock tower and the gigawatt. What's it? Gigawatts?
Yeah, gigawatts. Yeah.
Well, see, what's funny about it is that gigawatt is actually technically not an actual term of.
Right. No, and I thought I always
gigawatt.
I thought it was gigawatt. Yeah.
It is, but they said that it actually was a shift in time and years and years and years ago where people used to call it gigawatts, and at some point when it started becoming GIF, it was gigawatt. So they actually started doing that. It was like a transitional time. So it is the same.
So in 1955, you probably would have.
Well, that also, and then they said it sounded cooler. Like it sounded like a more of a scientific term. It was kind of like crazy.
Right.
Like his whole 1.21 gigawatts.
Gigawatts, and then you mentioned Nova and Transformers. You ever read the Transformer Back to the Future crossover?
No, I want to.
I have the trade now. I was gonna try to read it before this podcast, and I just haven't had time to do anything. But that's one that was fun, and they made the DeLorean into a Transformer.
That's
named Gigawatt. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, it's
makes
awesome.
sense. It makes sense. Well, maybe that's the next one. Maybe that's the next crossover. They always like to do that stuff. Property crossovers. We got Michael Bay to direct it.
Oh God, yeah, you ought to screw that up. Fine.
Where all the explosions come from?
Yeah, I don't remember any of this in Back to the Future. Them blowing half the friggin' city up.
But
Marty goes back into the future, and the whole town is just destroyed and all rubble and stuff.
You
mean the Great Android Wars of 1955?
There's some crossovers that make sense, and that does make sense. It does, like in a comic book form, it does make sense. Like I've talked about.
Megan Fox playing his mom in that?
It's Biff's wife.
Actually, that'd be pretty fitting. Yeah,
it makes sense, right? It
does. That makes sense.
We're gonna recast Marty McFly as Shia LaBeouf.
I
mean, he ruined he helped ruin the Indiana Jones series, so why don't we have him help ruin the
that wasn't good series? Yeah, might as well finish this one off.
Again, selfishly as a Back to the Future diehard fan, I want another one because I want to see more.
I would love to see more property because I enjoy it.
But I know for a fact, unless it's 50, 100 years from now, that it's gonna piss people off. It's gonna taint a series.
Depending on how it's done, how much would you and I enjoy watching it? Like, would we actually go into it and just have? It's so hard. I haven't watched Beetlejuice yet.
Yeah,
but I loved Beetlejuice. I love the idea of Beetlejuice more than sometimes in actually the movie itself. But the parts of it are just so much fun. And I haven't watched the sequel, and I was sort of cringing going into Ghostbusters because I love Ghostbusters. Yeah. And I already had RoboCop. The new RoboCop movie was awful, like in my opinion. It was terrible. So like you go into a little bit of like this expectation that there's no way to achieve the expectation we have because we've had it for 30 plus years.
40 almost now, or it's 40 in a week. So this to me is it would have to be done like we mentioned about Ghostbusters. That's the only way it would work, unless it's 30 or 40 years from now when all the people that were in the movie were dead and they want to just do it's in the same world and someone finds the parts and there's still no connection at all to the original films. Or they do a reboot in the future that's like, again, 30 years from now we're like, hey, it's the 70th anniversary of Back to the Future, let's do it. I think if they did it now, like in the next 5 years or so, and Doc Brown shows up and hopefully we have Marty McFly as the character that's still going. But if it's Marty McFly Jr., and even if Michael J. Fox has passed by then and they have pictures of him or throwback videos of him,
some sort of homage to him, some sort of homage to him. I think
they could do it.
Yeah, somebody coming across the time machine and frigging with it, and
I would want one more. That's what I would want. I don't think it's one of those things that you could do 5 or 6 more. I think that so many places have done these reboots or rehashing of things, and then they've gone into the sequel of that, and then the sequel of that, and then the sequel of that. And it's like X-Files is one of my favorite shows of all time, and they did the whole like come back for a season, and then they ended up doing a sequel to that season. And I'm like, you should have just come back for one 10-episode season and left it. Give us fans something else to like grab onto and love this. And then if you continue, that series is probably built off of the idea that there would only be one. And then the success of it, they're like, let's add on to that. And then you're just muddling the whole thing. And then
it starts feeling like a money grab.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, losing that special.
Indiana Jones is a perfect example.
It's
you had the first 3 movies that were nearly perfect, and then you go on and you make a 4th movie like, oh cool, we get a new Indiana Jones here, and it's Crystal Skull, and that's what we get from it. And so
I haven't watched any since that either. Like
Dial Destiny is not horrible.
That movie. I dislike that movie so much that I never bothered watching the next one.
It's not horrible, but it's also not amazing. Right. Someone's at my front door.
Oh boy.
No, I can't see it.
I had the same thing before we started. I'm at the front door here.
But yeah, so like I said, to me, so for years and years and years, I had this movie rated at 4.5 stars, and I don't know why, because I honestly think it's a 5-star movie in my opinion, and that's so I'm gonna go 5 stars, even though I've had I literally have had it on my Letterboxd and all that stuff to 4.5 stars. I watched it again this time and said, I really cannot find a spot in this movie that I don't like or I don't think they did well. Like again, the biggest thing to me, and this is my own personal opinion, right? Is that the plot holes that possibly come up with any time travel movie are there.
Right.
But otherwise, the story itself, the reason why they have to go back in the past, they get stuck in the past, it all makes sense. And the fuel is the main reason, and the lightning bolt and using tying all these pieces together. It doesn't seem like an easy undertaking to write this kind of a story because you mentioned it's future and all that stuff.
And then it's great because when he comes back to the future, stuff in his life was fixed that he didn't anticipate. His parents are happy, like his dad's successful. Biff, being the a-hole, is not winning and winning over his dad. He's outside polishing the cars,
And then they add that stinger at the end of it to talk about movie 2, which they didn't screw up in movie 2 by saying, well, we did that at the end of the movie, but we're not going to use that anymore. Like when we release the movie on VHS again, we're going to cut that out because we're going in a different direction. They built off of it and they used that to open up the next movie. And I think that his line, what am I, an ass? I'm like, something wrong with your kids. What are they, assholes?
Yeah. No, that's what it was. What's you bring Jennifer to fix her? What's the matter? Would you grow up to be assholes? No, it's not you, Marty. It's your kids.
and that whole thing is just it's great. And so to me, I'm like, I have to sit down and go, in my life, what are my 5-star movies? And I this is a 5-star movie to me. It's just too much of it. I can understand going 4.5 stars, being like it's not perfect, but in the same sense, I'm like, what am I comparing this to in the style of movie that it is? Right? I'm not saying like to me one of my favorite movies is 7. Completely different movie.
I don't know that this holds up as well as Time Cop does.
Oh my god. But like in the same sense, like yes, is it a Academy Award winning Best Picture movie? No, but it's extremely entertaining.
That stuff I don't want to watch anyways.
It's one of the most rewatchable movies I've ever seen in my life. It's extremely entertainment. It's for everybody. Like there's something in this for everybody. It's funny. It's got so it's like to me, it's a 5-star movie. I'm done defending myself. I don't know why I'm defending myself because there's a bunch of people out there that think this is a 5-star movie.
Here's my 8-year-old in 2025 loving this movie.
I'm
Like she
defending
just called-
myself on a movie that people do think it's good. Like,
right.
why do people think that? Oh, Justin, you should have
Some of my
5 stars on
movies I
that.
do have to defend, but that's not.
Yeah, so I like this movie a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. Geez, I don't know. I'm between 4.5 and 5 stars.
Yeah,
I don't even know why I would give it 4.5. Just
that's what I'm saying. I don't like.
it's just hard to get that 5 star, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, you're right. There really isn't anything in this to say differently. It maybe I'd only go 4.5 stars because it didn't. Well, it was part of my childhood. It didn't affect me as much. It just wasn't like something as a kid that I like. I didn't run around dressing like Marty McFly.
Yep. Yep.
A friend of mine, I think, always waited for a hoverboard, and he tried to skateboard and all that stuff because of this movie, and I just wasn't that kid. So maybe that's the only reason I'd go 4.5 stars. But ultimately, the movie's great. It's super fun. It's aged well. It's a I don't know. The entire property holds up over time.
Yeah.
Like, and I very much enjoyed watching it with my family today. So
that's my point. It's that it's a family movie. It's a movie that's great, and I think it's the best movie we've watched that we've reviewed, by any stretch of the imagination. Honestly.
Yeah, probably. I'm trying to remember what else we've done that were good movies.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
We've watched Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
I mean, I do love Ninja Turtles. And Ninja Turtles, I'd probably give the 5 more so because it was such a big part of my childhood versus Back to the Future.
Yep.
But in the grand scheme of things, I think Back to the Future probably holds up better than Ninja Turtles does.
And I think that the story itself is more complex.
Grounded. I mean, it's like grounded and not grounded. Which one's more believable? You can go Back to the Future, or that there are mutant turtles fighting crime.
Yeah, yes, you good point there.
Time travel almost seems more believable than the mutant turtles fighting crime.
Yeah. But
Mutant turtles, sure. Mutant turtles with like this sense of decency and good that they have to. Well, that seems a little bit much.
Yeah. But in 40 years, this movie's held up, and I think that people this is one of those ones that even movies like Fight Club, to me, it's a great movie, amazing movie. It had when it hit its 20th anniversary and 30th anniversary or whatever it was recently, 25th anniversary. It was like a blip on the radar. People were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it's been out for 25 years." This is one of those things that's 40 years, and people were like, "This movie's been good for 40 years. It's still good for 40 years. Still holds."
Well, I mean, we have the 50th year of Jaws.
We debated. We went back and forth on that. And we talked about that, and I discussed it. I even sent you saying, "Hey, make sure you watch Jaws." It's the 50th anniversary of Jaws, and it's one of those things. It's a outstanding movie as well. I just felt like this would be more fun to discuss and talk about it. I think that a lot of people are going to focus on Jaws right now in this summer.
Back to the Future might sort of get overlooked a little.
Well, our friend John, friend of the podcast, John Campapiano, actually is screening this summer his documentary about. It's called The Farmer and the Shark. It's about a farmer that was actually helping with the making of Jaws down in Martha's Vineyard, and so that's coming out too. So there's a lot more of that. There's no Back to the Future documentary coming out.
I would probably give Jaws a 5 star.
It's one of the best.
And
movies.
I can tell you exactly when I saw Jaws and all this. You know what I mean?
So it was worth it, but I was like, I don't want to do a 40th anniversary movie and watch
Jaws
a 50th
is as much
movie.
a movie I watch in the summer as Home Alone is a movie I watch at Christmas time. Every summer we have to watch Jaws.
So I didn't want to do 2 good movies in a row. So the next movie we're going to review is Fantastic Four from 2005. So yeah,
I can just start making the notes now without rewatching it of the problems with this thing.
Well, I'll tell you, we've discussed
and then I'll rewatch
it
so I can be surprised by either things I can write off as not as bad, maybe, or even more things I'm like, God, this sucks.
Well, we've discussed this before. We have book club, right? Book club discusses things, and there's a 30-minute conversation on a good book.
Yeah.
And then a 3-hour conversation on a shitty book. And
I was actually almost those mid books where there's stuff that you really like or I really like, and then we're surprised at how many people don't like it.
Yeah.
And then you have this big discussion because we're defending something we really enjoy while someone else is like, I absolutely hated
this book. Yeah.
Well, everyone with Long Halloween, it's my favorite arc of all time. And there were a fair amount of people that didn't like Batman Long Halloween in our book club, which they're all wrong. You included.
You also like RoboCop, so there's that.
RoboCop is amazing.
So no, but I was saying I was actually kind of afraid that here we are, we're wrapping up here, and I was like, I don't know how much we're going to be able to actually discuss this movie. He's like, oh, it was great.
was
sign
fun.
off. Whereas if we were the crappier movies, like when we talk about Fantastic Four, we're gonna be able to shit on that movie for an entire hour.
Oh my God. Yeah, we have to cut it off because we're like, no one's gonna listen to this long.
Yeah. And so there's that. So I think that's one of those things. And so we're going to continue going back to these crappy old movies and we're going to watch every once in a while. We're going to watch a good movie because that's just fun to do too. And
it's nice to break it up a little.
Yeah.
That way we're also not just crapping on something all the time.
And what I want to do now, I think what I'm going to do now is we'll discuss it. And here it's on this podcast. We'll talk about it, in the future, episodes coming up. So let's talk like maybe we're gonna do August 4th ish, right around that time, sometime in August. We're gonna do another recording. Let's do the season of Revival. So it's only at 8 episodes.
Okay, there we go.
And so we have able to catch up on those and do all those because Revival, it's right here.
I didn't do my homework for.
Which is fine.
We were supposed to do for everyone. We were supposed to do a Revival first pilot episode, quick little, and I didn't. I literally didn't have an hour free.
I'm glad I'm not glad we didn't because I want to discuss it with you, but I'm glad we didn't in the sense that I honestly thought about it afterwards. Was like, I hate discussing things when it's only one of a TV show. I can see the idea of the only way I can see is a quick non-spoiler. Hey, this is a great episode of a TV show. You should watch the whole series. This is gonna be good. Keep tune in every week, that kind of thing. Yeah. But discussing and breaking down the positives and negatives, it's like at the end of the show
on like 45 minutes.
There are things that are cliffhangers that need to be answered in the next episode.
Right.
Like it can't be like, well, I wish they discussed this. Like, well, especially an adaptation. Of a comic book, we're like, oh, they didn't talk about this. Like, well, they have 7 more episodes to do that. So there's a possibility.
Calm down.
At the end of the 8 episodes, we could then discuss and say, hey, they missed this in this first season. That should have been. It was in the first deluxe edition. That should have been on the TV show or whatever. I'll tell you right now, anybody's listening to this, watch it because it's great. It's great for people who are fans of the Revival comic book series, but also great for people who are just want something different on TV right now. And it's one of those things that
I mean, we started this morning. Liz is saying what she goes. I can see this being a television property. Like the acting isn't as good as maybe it could be if this was something else.
It gets better.
But overall, she's interested in the plot and everything.
The beginning is kind of weird at the acting, but it gets better as this episode goes along for sure. And
I think any shows like that too, it takes a little while for actors to figure out who their character is, how they interact with fellow characters, all that. I mean, you watch any big show that we might all love the property of, you watch that first season, they're usually a little and then it's much better.
It's I'll say I won't spoil it for anybody, but the ending line to the episode, I literally went, hell yeah, until I was like, what? I go, you just wait. So there's the first issue of the comic book. There's an end. It ends the same way, which is amazing, and I cannot wait for people to read that. So, but the title of the episode, it gives it away, but that's beyond that, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah. So Back to the Future. Your positive review here on the Case and Tights podcast. It's an anomaly when we're talking movies here. But yeah, we'll shit on a movie next time we're talking. But that's the next time. This is great.
What do we have? We have Back to the Future, Dick Tracy, Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
What else? Is that it? Are those only like? I
think so.
Like Star Wars.
Well, Star Wars, for the people myself is not as much for you. Are you happy?
Well, I mean, Star Wars, I always tell people I don't hate Star Wars. I know. So.
But here's my question: are you feeling anywhere similar to a possible sequel to this movie we just talked about, compared to what your favorite Star Wars movie coming out here, Spaceballs 2? Are you feeling
not even? I'm scared because you talk about that whole having that anticipation, right? And all that excitement and all those expectations to live up to. And I absolutely love Spaceballs. So seeing Spaceballs.
So I'll tell you right now, the best thing is Bill Pullman coming back, Mel Brooks playing yogurt, like all that stuff.
Rick Moranis
coming back. That makes
returns.
sense. However, what I will say, and this is not to bring you down or anything like that, but I loved History of the World Part 1. The TV show that came out afterwards on Hulu, History of the World Part 2, was a letdown in the sense that there was so much riding on the fact that it was a first of a sequel, of a duel that never made the sequel. It was like a whole part of the joke where there was no part 2. It was only part 1.
Right.
Was it.
It's literally that in the Spaceballs movie of the we'll meet again on the quest for more money.
Yeah. And so we'll see. Mel Brooks is a freaking hilarious dude, and Rick Moranis coming back. I think it has hope. I have hope for it.
I'll be interested. Bill Pullman's son is on it.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're gonna have a new character for Barf. I think it'd be fun to have sort of funny to do the John Candy thing, but like, look, he's the mug, like, our dog did that one.
Yeah. It would be funny. I'm excited. It will be interesting to see where they go with it. And
or you just have that Barf get hit by a car. Like, he's chasing a car. Something.
Have like
you can definitely do this thing that I feel like that would be a great homage to John Candy and the comedy that John Candy brought all of us.
Well, he gets hit by a van.
Like, not do it.
He gets hit by a van because the van is from Home Alone. From Home Alone.
Oh my God, yes.
He's playing polka music in the background. We'll just like pull that right into it too.
Yep. Yeah, there we go.
But like I said, if they use the Schwartz Awakens as the name of the movie that I've seen online, I will also be excited.
Oh my God, hell yes.
If the Schwartz Awakens, that's again another good role on that. But
absolutely,
that's for another time. Maybe we'll talk about that one. Maybe we'll do Spaceballs when that gets ready to come out.
And that'll be interesting.
We should do do like in person, watch it, talk about it, discuss it, laugh, that kind of thing. We're discussing what we wanted to do one of those. I think that fits the thing. But yeah, Galactic Comics and
I'll be reciting every freaking line in the movie. I've seen it so many times. I could probably
you can't do all of them. We'll get shut down.
I could probably do that one man acting thing where you relive the whole movie.
Here's the deal. We're not going to review the movie. We're going to review Paul's interpretation of the movie. And we're going to do it live.
Does it live up
live? We're going to do it. We're going to have like little models. We'll use like a window. I have the Winnebago over there we can use.
Hey, there we go.
From Walking Dead.
No, sir, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again.
But Galactic Comics and Collectibles is on Hammond Street in Bangor, Maine. If you are in the Bangor, Maine area, you can also find them at galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com as well as Instagram.
I do believe by the end of this year. I don't want to say this is going to be anytime too soon, so we're going to go by the end of this year. galacticcomicscollectibles.com will be better than it currently is.
It's what it is. You find stuff, just message them on Facebook and say, I'm looking for this. They might have it.
We're quick to get back to social media, and that's what I tell them.
Follow social media because they also like pictures of things that are like, you might be like, I want that, and he can send it to you.
Right. You can be watching this right now and be like, look at that Spider-Man book back there. Yeah, we'll mail it to you.
Yeah, exactly. So, exactly. But thank you so much, Paul, for coming back on and talking. I will see you sometime this week. Crazy stuff happening in our lives, but we're making do, and here we go. Back to the Future. Everybody watch it. All three of them. And the animated show.
Yeah.